Hey guys, tonight we sailed past the expected and docked somewhere a little tipsy. Picture this: your boat, rocking gently on a wine-colored sea, slides up to an island no one seems to chart anymore. The air smells faintly of ripe figs and spiced honey, and above you, the sky is stuck in a perpetual golden hour, like it's been told to behave for a painting. Everything is suspiciously peaceful. No birds squawking, no waves crashing. Just soft, rhythmic breathing. And it's not coming from you. You step onto the shore, barefoot, because shoes feel like too much responsibility here, and your toes sink into warm, silken sand. You pause. Listen. There's snoring. Yes, actual snoring. And not from one person. From everyone. You haven't even seen them yet, but you can tell, this whole island is full of people deeply, blissfully asleep. Pirates, you'll find out later, though they currently look more like overgrown babies clinging to empty rum bottles and snuggling their cutlasses like plushies. And you? You're caught between curiosity and the distinct feeling you've wandered into a dreamscape powered by too much fermented fruit. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and what time it is where you are. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice is how quiet your thoughts become. It's as if the island is whispering, "Shoo, you're here now." You spot a grove of olive trees, unnaturally still, their leaves barely trembling despite the salty breeze. Every sense tingles, not with fear, but with a fuzzy kind of anticipation, like you've arrived at a surprise party where the guests haven't realized you're the guest of honor. You take a few cautious steps inland and find footprints in the sand, big, booted, chaotic spirals that lead nowhere in particular. Then you see one, a pirate, flat on his back beneath a fig tree, his beard tangled with grapevines, a half-eaten wheel of cheese on his chest. You crouch, check his pulse, alive, and, yes, definitely snoring. You explore further. There's a ship beached crookedly near the bay, cannons replaced by what look like massive wine barrels. Hammocks stretched between trees, each cradling a sleeping figure in striped trousers and bandanas. Parrots snooze on branches, muttering dream phrases like "no more raisins," "matey," in their sleep. You should be alarmed. But instead, a peculiar calm overtakes you. It's the kind of peace usually reserved for enchanted fairy tale woods or after lunch naps on rainy Sundays. Except, this island's been stuck in that mood for who knows how long. Historians still argue whether certain remote islands mentioned in ancient Greek travelogues were symbolic metaphors or actual places. Some claim that Homer's Land of the Lotus Eaters might be loosely inspired by a real Mediterranean isle where locals consumed a narcotic fruit that induced memory loss and fatigue. You begin to wonder if you've stumbled into something like that. Or worse, a forgotten hangover from a god's private party. As you continue, the landscape gets even stranger. Grapevines grow in tangled jungles, drooping with fruit too heavy to hang. You pluck one, it pulses slightly in your palm before going still, like it just pretended not to breathe. You eat it anyway. Obviously. And suddenly, you feel floaty. Just a little. You look back toward the shore and realize, your boat is gone. No splash, no struggle, just gone. Like the island politely erased the idea of leaving before you got too attached. There's something under your feet. The grass is thick, velvety, and slightly warm? Every step feels like it's being muffled by a particularly friendly moss. You pass by a statue of a satyr with a chipped flute. It looks centuries old, but a faint trail of laughter echoes from its mouth as you walk past. The sound is brief but unmistakable. You pause by a crooked wooden sign nailed to a palm tree. It reads, "Welcome to Nissos, stay asleep." Below it, in smaller letters, "Free wine. No judgment." Well, that clears things up, or absolutely nothing at all. As you head toward what seems to be a central square, or rather, a circle of dozing pirates arranged like a spilled game of jacks, a scent hits you. Sweet, sharp, rich. You follow it to a low wooden bar with no bartender, just a jug on the counter and several goblets, each already full. One of them raises itself, floats, ever so gently, hovers beside your face. It's not threatening. It's inviting. And against every ounce of common sense, you take it. The wine is unlike anything you've ever tasted. It's not just fruity, it's musical. It makes your teeth tingle and your shoulders loosen. The flavor changes mid-sip, plums, then firelight, then something you can only describe as good memories of your grandmother's kitchen. And when you finish it, the goblet clanks softly on the wood, by itself. That's when you hear the voice. Not bad for a vintage brewed by nymphs with attention issues, right? You turn. And there he is, lounging across the bar like it was grown for him specifically. Curly hair crowned with ivy, eyes the color of ripe pomegranate, a smile both amused and exhausted. He raises an eyebrow at you and flicks a fig stem off his robe. "Oh, don't look so shocked," he says. "You're not the first mortal to wash up here. But you might be the first one sober." You blink. He winks, and then pours you another glass. The man doesn't move like a man. He glides, no footsteps, no creaks on the wood floor, just a faint shift in the air, like a breeze that forgot it had somewhere to be. He slides a fresh goblet of wine your way, then takes a generous sip from his own. The drink never seems to run out. And the cup? It sparkles faintly, even in the shade. You lean against the bar, still unsure if this is an elaborate dream or the result of accidental wine poisoning. But he's watching you. Not with concern, but amusement, like someone watching a cat figure out outdoors work. "Name's Dion," he says, swirling his wine. Short for Dionysus. "But let's keep it informal. You've got that lost mortal look, and I've been bored." You blink at him. "Dionysus? The god of wine, madness, and theater? The one known for turning sailors into dolphins and making entire villages dance themselves into exhaustion? That Dionysus?" He laughs. Not in an evil, echoey way, more like a tired comedian who's been doing the same bit for centuries. "You're thinking of the old stories, yeah. They get the big stuff right. Wine, revelry, ill-advised animal transformations. But no one ever asks what happens after the party ends." He gestures behind him at the slumbering island. This is after the party." You glance around. The pirates still haven't stirred. One of them scratches his belly in his sleep. Another snores so violently his hammock swings. A chicken with an eye patch hops onto a barrel and dozes off beside them. "You want the story?" Dionysus asks. "Fine. But only because I haven't had a real conversation in about 100 years. Most of my guests don't stay awake this long." He waves a hand, and suddenly a low couch appears behind you, velvety, plum-colored, very unhelpful if you're trying not to get too comfortable. You sit anyway, because of course you do. "So," he begins, swirling his drink again, "I was on a cruise. A divine cruise. You know, nectar, ambrosia, questionable decisions. But somewhere between Cyprus and Crete, I got a bit enthusiastic. Found this island, full of smugglers and wannabe pirates, and thought, wouldn't it be fun to show them how it's really done?" He grins. "So I did." Historians still argue whether the myths of Dionysus Island feasts are metaphor or memory. Were they real locations, or simply cautionary tales about indulgence and chaos? But sitting here, across from the god himself as he lounges in a golden haze, it's hard to believe this is anything but disturbingly literal. "I brought the vines," Dionysus continues. "Taught the goats how to dance. Had satyrs doing keg stands. The pirates, well, they took to it faster than most. First it was fun. Then it was too much." You raise an eyebrow. "Too much for you?" He shrugs. "Immortality skews your sense of scale, but even I know when a party crosses from legendary into logistical nightmare. They wouldn't stop. Ever. Sleep became optional. Meals were just excuses to refill goblets. I told them to chill. They asked for more wine. So, I gave them one last round. Special batch. From the hidden vineyard on Mount Cithaeron. Made with grapes grown in moonlight. Aged in silence." You blink. "That sounds terrifying." "Oh, it was," Dionysus says, smiling wistfully. "Put 'em all straight to sleep. Instantly. I meant to wake them up a week later, tops. But then I got distracted. Time's fuzzy when you're a god. And now, hundreds of years later, you're sitting among the consequences." You glance around the bar again. Bottles of wine float lazily, some spinning gently midair like lazy tops. A parrot with grapes in its beak snores into a half-eaten fig tart. The bar itself hums softly under your fingers, an old, contented hum, like it's dreaming of a time when people stayed awake long enough to toast properly. Dionysus stretches, arms behind his head, then tosses his empty goblet into the air. It explodes into butterflies. "I tried waking them once, maybe 70 years ago? Played some lyre music, released a few jungle cats, even whispered secrets about buried treasure. Nothing. You tilt your head. Did you try coffee? He looks at you with genuine confusion. Is that the bitter bean soup thing mortals drink now? EW. No. Gross. You're about to ask more when he leans in, voice low. But here's the weird part. Not all of them were affected. A few managed to slip into some kind of half-sleep. Dreamwalking, I think. They whisper, sometimes. Especially on full moons. Say things like she's watching and don't open the cork. He sips again. Creepy stuff. You blink. The cork? He waves it off. I'll show you later. But for now, tell me something. Why are you here? You start to answer, but stop. The truth is, you don't really know. Your journey was vague from the start. You were just sailing, avoiding the usual chaos of daily life. And now you're here, sitting next to a wine god in semi-retirement, surrounded by enchanted pirates and ambient nap music. Maybe that's the point. Let me guess, Dionysus says. You were looking for peace and stumbled into a god's overdue consequences. He raises his goblet. Welcome to the club. A breeze rolls through the olive trees, carrying the scent of honey and rosemary. Somewhere in the village, a lute starts playing itself. You can hear tiny footsteps, maybe a satyr, but you're too relaxed to care. You should stay, Dionysus says, suddenly serious. Just for a bit. Everyone who comes here always says the same thing, just a few days. Then poof, nap time forever. You smile. But something in his eyes makes you uneasy. Because even gods, apparently, get lonely when the music stops. It takes you a moment to realize what just happened. You were listening, relaxed, lulled by the rhythm of Dionysus's voice and the velvet cushions beneath you, and for a split second, your eyelids fluttered shut. Not from boredom, not even from fatigue. Just invited shut. The island doesn't want you alert. It wants you softened. Dissolved. But Dionysus notices. Oh, he says, eyes twinkling. There it is. That first little dip. That's how it starts. He leans forward, resting his chin on his fist. You feel like you've just had the best nap of your life, even though you haven't closed your eyes. That, my mortal friend, is vintage enchantment, crafted by the Maenads themselves. Wine is spell. Sleep is mercy. You shake yourself awake, sitting up a little straighter on the absurdly plush couch. The air hums. The goblet beside you refills without being touched. Grapevines inch closer from the beams above. You're not entirely sure they're decorative. I'm not done yet, you say aloud, mostly to yourself. Dionysus shrugs and reclines like a contented lizard on a warm rock. Suit yourself. You've already lasted longer than the last guy. Merchant from Corinth. Talked a big game. Said he'd outdrink a demigod. Lasted 3 hours. He's over there. He gestures vaguely toward a distant olive grove, where you swear you see someone gently snoring under a pile of amphorae. There's a buzzing in your ears now. Not unpleasant, more like a lullaby sung in a language you don't speak, but your spine seems to understand. You need to move. Change the rhythm. You stand, and the vines hesitate, almost as if startled. Dionysus arches an eyebrow. Brave, curious, or just stubborn. You walk past him without answering, determined to explore more of this surreal little island before it talks you into permanent nap mode. As you step onto the main path, if you can call it that, you notice something odd. The trees ahead are drooping. Not in a sick way. More like they're tired. One olive tree leans dramatically to the left, as if posing for a melancholic portrait. Then you see it, a grapevine stretching across the path like a velvet rope at a VIP club. You try to duck under it, but it twitches. You freeze. The vine raises one tendril, offers you a single grape. You blink. Am I being bribed by a plant? It rustles. In approval, apparently. You walk around it. Deeper into the island, the foliage gets weirder. Trees grow in spiral patterns. Flowers blink at you when you pass. A goat with a laurel wreath naps beside a barrel labeled "Do Not Tap." The whole landscape feels like a theater set after the audience has gone home, painted, dreamy, somehow paused. Historians still argue whether Dionysian rituals actually included hallucinogens or if the trance-like states were the result of rhythmic dancing and deep group psychology. But here, you're starting to suspect it was all of the above. This place feels engineered for surrender. Every step tempts you to sit down. Every breeze sounds like an invitation to forget time. Then you find it. A clearing. Circular. lined with cushions, musical instruments, and trays of half-eaten food, still fresh. In the center, a massive stone bowl filled with glowing wine. Glowing. Not metaphorically. It's giving off a soft, amber light, like a firefly decided to try fermentation. You take one cautious step forward, and that's when it happens. From behind one of the couches, something stirs. You freeze. Out rolls a man. Pirate, clearly, based on the striped sash and leather boots. He sits up slowly, rubbing his eyes. His beard is tangled with mint leaves. You brace for chaos. But he just yawns. Did the play start yet? He mumbles. You blink. The play? He looks at you with bleary eyes. We were waiting for Dionysus. He promised a performance. Said there'd be goats. Then we drank. His voice trails off. Wait. What year is it? You hesitate. He scratches his head, mumbles something about really vivid dreams and curls back onto the cushions. Asleep in seconds. You step backward. Accidentally bump into a lyre. It strums itself. A harmony follows, 2 notes, then a whisper of percussion from a drum you hadn't seen. The instruments are playing. Softly, gently. Not for you. For them. This isn't just a magical nap zone. It's a suspended performance. A stage forever mid-rehearsal. A party waiting for its cue. These pirates? They're the cast, frozen in a spell of Dionysian excess, halfway between drama and dream. You hear footsteps behind you. Dionysus strolls into the clearing, barefoot, sipping from a goblet shaped like a thistle. I told you, he says, voice soft. They never left. The party just kept going. He plucks a tambourine from a pile of instruments, spins it on one finger. Funny thing about mortals. You beg for escape, then can't handle it when you get it. He pauses. You want to know the kicker? You wait. This wasn't even the real celebration. Just a warm-up. The actual festival? That was supposed to be next week. He laughs, then stops himself, blinking slowly. Or maybe it was last week. Time, it seems, means nothing here. You look down into the glowing wine bowl. The liquid pulses gently, like a heartbeat. You feel it calling. Not urgently. Not seductively. Just persistently. Like gravity. Like sleep. Dionysus watches you. He doesn't push. He doesn't warn. He just raises his goblet again. To the party that outlasted the gods. You back away from the glowing wine bowl, instincts buzzing like a faulty alarm clock trying its best. Dionysus doesn't seem offended. He lounges against a tree now, one knee up, eyes half-lidded but somehow still watching everything. You get the sense he's been watching everything for a very long time. As you wander away from the clearing, the hum of the island resumes, low and drowsy, like a cat purring in its sleep. Vines slither lazily along tree trunks. The earth gives a little sigh underfoot. And then you notice it. The olive trees. They're whispering. You don't hear words, exactly. Just a kind of gentle, leafy gossip. You press your hand to the bark of one, and it shivers. Not cold. Ticklish. You jerk your hand back. Okay, you mutter. Not touching trees anymore. But they're following you. Not literally, not walking, but their branches seem to lean as you pass, like polite nobles in a hall, bowing silently to your presence. A leaf lands on your shoulder. When you go to brush it off, it sticks, vibrating faintly. The whispering gets clearer, not loud, but unmistakable now. He's lonely, it says. You whirl around. No one. Then another voice, from a different branch. They were laughing. Then they slept. You stagger back into a bush that politely bends away to soften your fall. Dionysus must have heard the commotion, because suddenly he's at your side, peering at you like a doctor humoring a patient mid-fever dream. Oh, the trees? He says. Yeah. They got chatty after the 4th century. I let them drink some runoff nectar. Probably a mistake, but they're mostly harmless. You sit up slowly. They're alive. Of course they are, he says, grinning. This island's been steeping in god juice for centuries. Even the soil dreams now. He pulls a fig from a pouch in his robe and tosses it into the air. It floats for a moment before popping like a bubble and releasing a tiny giggle. You frown. That's not normal. He shrugs. Neither are you, right now. You've been here too long already. The island's noticing you. You get up and brush yourself off. Noticing me how? Dionysus doesn't answer right away. He picks up a dropped amphora, examines it, then says quietly, "It's trying to figure out if you're staying." You're suddenly very aware of your heartbeat. You walk further down the path, and he follows, not leading, not hurting, just being there, like ivy around a column. The sun hasn't moved once since you arrived. The shadows haven't shifted. It's been golden hour the entire time. Time doesn't work here, you say aloud. Dionysus nods. Not really. It exists, but only as mood. The sun listens to me now. That's not creepy at all. He laughs. I try. You reach a wooden archway carved with symbols, vines, grapes, stars, eyes, and a goat doing something anatomically improbable with a tambourine. Dionysus taps the arch and the gate opens into another part of the island, a massive vineyard, but one that breathes. The vines stretch and yawn as if waking from a long nap. The grapes are huge, some the size of oranges, pulsing with a faint inner glow. And the air? Sweet, cloying. If joy had a perfume, this would be it. Historians still argue whether ancient Mediterranean vineyards used sacred or fermented irrigation systems for ritual purposes. Some even claim certain cults had vines that drank the moon. Standing here, you begin to wonder if that was less metaphor than previously assumed. Dionysus walks beside you, his fingers brushing the leaves. This place is made from memories, emotions. Every toast, every song, every tear shed over spilled wine, it all lives here now. He turns to you, serious. The pirates? They fed this place. Their revelry. Their hunger. Their grief. You squint. Grief? He nods. Oh, sure. They drank to forget. Lost families. Lost wars. Some just lost their ships. Wine was the bomb. I gave them too much bomb. A breeze moves through the vineyard and all the grapes shimmer, as if they too remember something they'd rather not. You spot a small hut at the edge of the vineyard. Dionysus notices. "Ah, the music house," he says. "Want to see where the party really went off the rails?" You nod, because at this point, what's the alternative? Nap forever. Inside, the hut is dusty but intact. A few lyres hang crookedly on the wall. Drums stacked in the corner. Sheet music flutters gently, though no window is open. Dionysus walks to a long table in the center and sets down his goblet. "They wrote an opera once," he says, smiling faintly. "Drunk out of their minds. Called it The Goat of Vengeance. It was terrible. We all cried laughing." You glance at the faded script still nailed to the back wall. The lyrics are disturbing, and rhyme far too well. "They performed it every night for a week," Dionysus continues. "Then they started dreaming about it. Only about it. Couldn't stop singing it, even in their sleep." You frown. "Wait. That sounds like..." "Yeah," he says. "That was the beginning of the spell." You step away from the table. "So it's not just wine?" He sighs. "Nothing ever is." Outside, the vines twist again. The hut creaks. Somewhere in the trees, a flute plays 3 notes, distant but deliberate. You feel dizzy. Dionysus picks up his goblet again. "Careful," he says. "The island wants a lead actor again. You've got good cheekbones." "Just saying." You roll your eyes, but deep down, the fear is beginning to settle in. Not panic, just the slow, sticky realization. This island isn't just asleep. It's waiting. You step outside the music hut, breathing a little harder than you should be. The air is thick now, less like oxygen, more like velvet. A pleasant kind of smothering. You blink a few times, hoping to clear your head, but all it does is sharpen your senses. Now you notice everything. The sway of the vines isn't random, it follows a rhythm. The snoring from the pirate village rises and falls in harmonic intervals. Even the waves lapping the shore have settled into a sleepy waltz. This island is choreographed, dreamlike, but tightly controlled. Dionysus walks beside you silently. You're starting to hate how relaxed he is. Like someone watching a movie for the 100th time, already knowing when the jump scares land and who survives to the credits. "So," you say, breaking the hush, "is there anyone on this island who's actually awake?" He raises an eyebrow. "Aside from you and me? Not really. Well, maybe the goats. But they're unreliable narrators." You're about to ask if he's joking when a soft thump makes you turn. A grape the size of a tennis ball just dropped from a nearby vine and rolled to a stop at your feet. You crouch, pick it up. It pulses faintly. Warm. You toss it to Dionysus, who sniffs it and winces. Oh no! That one's overripe. Might cause spontaneous musical numbers if eaten whole. Best leave it. You let that image pass unaddressed and start walking back toward the heart of the island. There's something you need to see. Something you haven't been shown yet. As you move, the island reacts. Trees shuffle to give you shade. Flowers twist to follow your gaze. A breeze slips down your neck like a curious whisper. And the whispers are back. Only now they're clearer. Stay forever. Lead the next psalm. She waits beneath the cork. You stop. What does that mean, you ask? Who's she? Dionysus doesn't answer at first. He looks away, toward the highest point of the island, a rocky hill where a single olive tree stands, ancient and alone. At its base is something small and pale. That, he says softly, is the cork. You follow his gaze. No offense, you say, but I've never been afraid of a bottle stopper before. He chuckles darkly. This one's different. He leads you up the winding path to the hill. As you climb, the island grows quieter. No more whispering. No music. Just your footsteps and the occasional creak of a vine adjusting itself like a sleepy cat. At the top, you finally see it. It's not just a cork. It's huge, carved from bleached ivory, sealed with ancient resin, and covered in symbols that make your eyes feel itchy. It plugs a squat, stone basin, half sunk into the ground. Vines avoid it. Even the sun seems to hesitate at its edges. You approach cautiously. This, Dionysus says, is where I kept the last psalm. The final lullaby. The one that tipped the whole island into stillness. You circle it slowly, half expecting it to hiss or pulse like the grapes. It doesn't. It just sits there. Heavy. Final. And she, you ask. He nods toward the tree above it. She was the first one who refused to sleep. You stare at the tree. It's tall but gnarled, its bark silvered with age. Hanging from one branch is a single bell. It doesn't move. She was a Maenad, he says. Wild. Brilliant. Wouldn't stop dancing. Even after the wine. Even after the music ended. She kept spinning, alone, while the others slumped into silence. You wait. She made that cork, he adds. Said if I wouldn't undo the spell, she would contain it. Said the psalm wasn't done. Said there was something else sleeping underneath it. Your skin crawls. Historians still debate whether Maenads, the frenzied followers of Dionysus, were real women or poetic symbols of uninhibited passion. But this one? She sounds real. And angry. What's under it now? You whisper. He exhales. That's the thing. I don't know anymore. You step closer. The cork hums. A low, subsonic vibration, like the sound a mountain might make if it were dreaming. You place a hand on it. Your vision flares. A theater, full of shadows. A stage set with velvet and ivy. In the center, a woman with wild hair, dancing so fast she seems to flicker in and out of being. Around her, pirates, clapping in slow motion. Dionysus, frozen in mid-toast. Everything locked in a moment that loops and folds in on itself endlessly. You pull your hand away. Hard. The vision vanishes. The cork just sits there. Dionysus is watching you. You're sensitive to it, he says. That's rare. Most mortals just hear a hum. You saw it. What is it? You demand. He shrugs. A mistake. A masterpiece. A memory turned real. Take your pick. You turn to leave, but he stops you. You could open it, he says. If you wanted. Wake them up. All of them. You freeze. And what happens if I do? He gives you a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. I guess, he says, we find out if the dream ends, or if it gets worse. The tree rustles above you. The bell doesn't ring. You walk away from the cork, slower this time. The island seems to hold its breath as you pass. And in the distance, from somewhere beneath the soil, you swear you hear the faintest sound. A single, soft note. From a flute. Back on the lower paths of the island, you can't shake the sound, the delicate, aching flute note that echoed up from under the cork. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even frightening. But it didn't belong. It was too awake. Too alive. And the island knows it. The whispers are silent now. Not because they've stopped, but because they're listening. Dionysus doesn't speak for a long time as you both walk past the sleeping pirates, past the parrots and snoring chickens, past the hammock village swaying gently like a giant cradle. It's the kind of silence that's full of thought, of memory, of someone quietly working up the courage to tell the rest of the story. Finally, he says, "There's something I didn't tell you." "Of course there is." He sighs and sits on a sun-warmed rock that looks suspiciously like a reclining lion. It purrs when he leans back. That cork wasn't just to seal a spell. It was a promise. The Maenad who made it, her name was Thyra, wasn't trying to save the island. She was trying to contain me. You blink. He continues, when you're a god, especially this kind of god, you think the world wants celebration. All the time. You forget that mortals have limits. That they break. You sit beside him, careful not to disturb the lion rock, which grumbles softly under your weight but doesn't bite. "She told me we were losing them," he says, voice low. "That the pirates weren't partying anymore. They were vanishing into the wine. Becoming echoes of themselves. They weren't alive, they were just dreaming louder." You glance toward the still snoring forms in the distant village. "She begged me to stop. To end it. But I couldn't. Or wouldn't. I told her they wanted this. That they chose it. So she did the only thing she could." He pauses. "She wrote her own lullaby. Poured it into the island's roots. And corked it shut." You stare at him. "And she vanished?" He nods. "Into the song. Into the earth. Into the dream. Take your pick." Historians still argue whether gods like Dionysus were symbolic manifestations of inner human urges or real, unpredictable beings. The truth may be both, divine archetypes with free will, who loved mortals the way a storm loves a coastline. You look at Dionysus now, and he doesn't seem like a deity. He looks tired, nostalgic, almost ashamed. "I stayed," he says. "Not because I was trapped, but because it felt wrong to leave. I made the mess. I figured I should clean it up." You give him a look. He shrugs. "Eventually." Immortality is all about procrastination. A quiet settles between you again. Insects hum in the underbrush. A satyr-shaped cloud drifts across the still sunset sky. The island holds its breath. And then, from far away, closer this time, you hear another flute note. Dionysus stiffens. So do the vines. "That's new," he mutters. You stand. "It's coming from underground?" He nods slowly. "The song's waking up." You try to make sense of it all. "But I thought the cork was holding it in." "It was," he says. "But it was never a lock. Just a silence. And now something's pressing play." The vines around your feet quiver. You step back, and they retract like startled snakes. The trees are whispering again, but this time in a different tone. Less dreamy, more urgent. You catch words like return, echo. She stirs. You look back at Dionysus. "Can it break free?" He doesn't answer. Instead, he looks up at the sky, which suddenly, finally, shifts. The clouds move. The sun tilts. Time creaks forward half a degree. And below you, the island shudders. It's subtle, like someone turning over in their sleep, but it's enough to send a tremble through the roots. You steady yourself. Dionysus stands. "We need to go somewhere," he says. "There's a place I buried the last part of her song. Maybe if we get to it first." He trails off. "Before what?" you ask. He gives you a long look. Before she finishes it. You follow him down a previously unnoticed path, stone steps carved into the hillside, now being uncovered by retreating vines. The earth is guiding you. Or maybe it's warning you. Either way, there's no turning back. At the base of the steps, there's a door. It's made of driftwood and coral, etched with ancient script. One of the letters glows faintly as you approach. You feel a flutter in your chest, not fear, not even excitement. It's recognition. This place knows you. Dionysus opens the door with a whisper and a wave of his hand. Inside, it's a small chamber. Round. Lined with amphories stacked like books. A stone pedestal in the center holds a lyre carved from bone and silver. You can feel the note it last played. It hums in the back of your skull like a memory you haven't had yet. Dionysus circles it carefully. "This is hers," he says. "The final verse. The one she never sang." You step forward. "You want me to finish it?" you ask. "No," he says. "I want you to read it. Understand it. Then maybe you'll know what to do next." You kneel beside the lyre. At its base is a scroll, sealed in wax. The symbol stamped in it is the same as the one on the cork. A spiral within a spiral. You touch it. The wax melts. The scroll opens. And suddenly, you are somewhere else. A dream. A vision. The past. Thyra, wild-eyed, laughing and crying at the same time, dances among flames and shadows. Her voice, fierce and broken, sings words that don't translate but make your chest ache. Behind her, pirates sleep. The sky spins. Dionysus watches helplessly. And beneath their feet, something huge turns in its sleep. The dream shatters. You're back in the chamber. The scroll is gone. Dionysus is staring at you. You saw it? He asks. You nod. He looks afraid for the first time. Then we're almost out of time. You and Dionysus don't run, but you don't stroll either. The urgency hangs thick in the air now, woven into every gust of wind and every creaking tree. The ground still vibrates slightly underfoot, as if the entire island is pulsing in rhythm with a heartbeat that isn't yours. Back through the forest you go, past the vines that once teased and beckoned you. Now they recoil, tense, coiling up like nervous snakes. The flowers no longer blink. They shut their petals tight. The color of the sky has changed too, no longer a syrupy sunset, more like rusted gold, deepening into something that feels like dusk that might never end. You said the song was buried, you say, breath tight. But that scroll was a memory. A warning. Dionysus nods. It was a verse. The last verse. Thyra hid it so well even the island forgot. Until you touched it. You glance over. Why me? He laughs without mirth. Because it always takes a mortal to finish the divine. Gods start things. Mortals end them. That's the deal. You pass through the sleeping village again. The pirates stir slightly now. A foot twitches. A hand grips a sword hilt. One of them murmurs a name, Thyra, like a prayer or a curse. The air has thickened. The nap is cracking. A bell rings once in the distance. You both freeze. That wasn't the tree bell, Dionysus says quietly. That was from below. You don't ask how he knows. The island is no longer hiding anything. It wants to be seen. As you step back toward the cork hill, you see the changes. The roots of the olive tree are twitching now, flexing like fingers. Cracks spider out from the base of the cork like frost on glass. A low, mournful hum swells from the earth. She's finishing the song, Dionysus says, face pale. It's coming through the cracks. And suddenly, you understand. The cork wasn't just sealing a spell or a god's guilt. It was holding back a rhythm. A loop. A cycle meant to repeat, endlessly, party, collapse, dream, repeat. The Maenad had tried to end it, not by stopping it but by silencing its final note. The moment the cycle would have begun again. But now the island remembers. And so do the pirates. One of them groans, sits up. His eyes flicker golden, like candlelight catching the bottom of a wine glass. Dionysus snaps his fingers and vines leap up around the pirate, gently pinning him down. The man struggles for a second, then sighs and falls back asleep. But it's temporary. You both feel it. Okay, you say, trying to process the impossible. If this is a spell, can it be undone? Dionysus doesn't answer right away. Then, only one way I know. We have to finish the song before she does. Sing the last verse differently. You blink. You mean, rewrite the ending? He grins grimly. We're about to remix a divine lullaby. No pressure. Historians still argue whether ancient chants, particularly in Dionysian rites, held magical power or were simply hypnotic. But here, on this island, it's not a metaphor. Song is structure. Music is memory. And memory? Memory is prison. You arrive again at the hilltop. The cork is glowing. Soft light pulses from its seams. The bell in the tree above it sways without wind, ringing once, then again, then again. Each tone deeper, closer. A circle of stones has formed at the base of the tree, previously hidden by the grass. 12 of them, equidistant, like seats in a vanished theater. Dionysus steps into the center and throws his arms wide. Last chance to back out, he says. Or nap forever. Island's choice. You step beside him. Let's rewrite the gods. He chuckles. Now that's the mortal spirit. He kneels at the center stone, presses his palm to it. You do the same on the one beside him. The stone's warm under your hands. And the ground answers. A flute note rises from below, not sharp, not soft, just sad. Then another. A harmony. From the horizon, a breeze picks up. For the first time since your arrival, the sun moves. It tilts further toward the west, casting long shadows across the stone ring. The olive tree shivers. Dionysus begins to hum. The melody is ancient, dissonant at first, like something scraping at the edge of memory. You feel it in your teeth, in your spine. Then it settles into a rhythm. A beat. You recognize fragments of what you heard in the vision, the song Thyra danced to. The one that sent the island to sleep. But now Dionysus is changing it. He skips a note, adds a pause, shifts a chord. You follow, adding your voice, not words, just sound, harmony, resonance. The island listens. The cork pulses. And then, it cracks. A jagged fracture splits down the center. Light spills out, amber and rose and violet, like a kaleidoscope bleeding open. The wind howls. The earth groans. And from beneath your feet, a voice rises. Not Thyra's. Not Dionysus's. Yours. Your voice is singing, but you're not singing. The final note, the one she never sang, was waiting for you. And you're finishing it. Dionysus looks over, stunned. The light swirls faster. The cork bursts. And stops. Just stops. The hill falls silent. No explosion. No earthquake. Just stillness. Then the roots of the tree retreat. The cracks seal. The hum fades. You stand, heart pounding, the last notes still ringing in your ribs. Dionysus rises slowly. His face is unreadable. What just happened, you ask. He exhales. You didn't end it, he says. You released it. You freeze. I didn't want to, you whisper. But you did, he says. And that may have saved us. From down the hill, you hear voices, real, human voices. Confused shouting. Questions. The pirates are waking up. For real. And they remember. The island is louder now. Not in a chaotic way, yet, but in the way that life rushes back into a space long abandoned. Birds cry overhead, startled out of slumber. Leaves shake themselves like animals waking from hibernation. And from the village below, pirate voices lift in overlapping confusion. Where's my boot? What day is it? Why is the sky moving? You and Dionysus stand at the top of the cork hill, both breathing hard like you've just outrun a storm you only half understood. But the storm isn't coming. It's already passed, quietly, subtly, and what's left behind is this awakening. From behind the tree, a gust of warm wind rolls down the slope, brushing your skin with the faint scent of grapes, sweat, and rosemary. The kind of scent that says, you were somewhere sacred, and also very weird. You take a shaky step forward. Dionysus catches your arm, steadying you. You alright? He asks. You nod, even though you're not. The echo of the final notes still vibrates somewhere inside your chest, like your soul got a tune-up it didn't ask for. Below, you see the pirates emerging, blinking in the golden light. Some are still tangled in hammocks. One walks directly into a tree. Another hugs a barrel like it's an old friend. Then, from the crowd, a tall figure steps forward. No beard. No bandana. Bare feet crunching on pebbles, hair wild as dry grass and streaked with silver. Dionysus stiffens. You follow his gaze. The woman is humming. Low. Beautiful. Familiar. She crests the final ridge and meets your eyes. Thyra? Dionysus breathes. She smiles, not warm, not cruel. Just real. You always did love dramatic timing, she says. The world holds its breath. I sealed it for a reason, she adds, walking slowly around the cork. Her fingers brush the edges. And you, she says, turning to you now, were foolish enough to break it beautifully. You try to speak, but no words arrive. Thyra raises a brow. Do you understand what you released? You shake your head. Dionysus clears his throat. We didn't break it. We rewrote it. She looks at him, and for the first time, her smile warms. Maybe, she says. Or maybe you just found someone it was waiting for. Historians still argue whether the Maenads were truly mortal women or a kind of myth-born hybrid, half-priestess, half-spell. But standing here, looking at Thyra with the wind plucking her hair like lyre strings, you realize something deeper. She is the spell. She was never sealed inside the cork. She became the cork, and now that it's opened, she's no longer bound. From below, More voices call out, recognition blooming like wildfire. Captain? Is that the old god? Why am I hungry and 30 years older? Dionysus winces. Yeah, we may need to do some explaining. He walks down to greet them, doing that thing gods do when they pretend they're one of the crowd, charming, half-bowing, tossing great jokes like confetti. You watch from the hill as the pirates crowd around him, some ecstatic, others furious, all dazed. The spell's grip is gone, but its memory lingers in their bones like wine stains in white linen. Thyra joins you, hands folded behind her back. It's not over, you know, she says. You glance at her. The spell? The cycle, she replies. Waking doesn't mean forgetting. Sometimes, it just means feeling everything at once. You swallow. That tracks. Why me, you ask? Why did it need my voice? Thyra considers for a moment. You are part of the pattern, she says. You arrived empty. Listening. That's rarer than you think. You turn to face her fully. Are you going to vanish again? She shrugs. Maybe. But this time, on my own terms. Down below, Dionysus is being pelted with shoes. Gently. Affectionately. One pirate hands him a spoon like it's a sword. He bows solemnly and drops it. Thyra chuckles. He's always been a mess. But he means well. You sit on the stone circle again. The olive tree's branches are calm now. The bell is still. Everything has stilled. What happens to the island, you ask? It remembers, she says. But it doesn't repeat. Not now. She points toward the edge of the sea. And sure enough, your boat has returned. You hadn't noticed it glide in. No splash, no fanfare. Just waiting. Quietly. It's time, Thyra says. You rise, legs stiff. Your heart feels heavier now, but also clearer. As you walk toward the dock, Dionysus jogs up beside you. His robe is slightly singed. Someone must have tried to set him on theatrical fire. So, he says, how'd you like my island? You give him a long look. I think your Yelp rating's about to get complicated. He grins. Fair. You reach the boat. It's pristine. Like it never left. You place a foot on the deck. He calls after you. If you ever get bored of reality again. You glance back. Let me guess. There's always another island? He winks. Always. Thyra raises a hand from the cliff's edge. Just once. The wind is soft now. Kind. The island exhales. You set sail. And behind you, the island full of napping pirates, wakes. You don't look back for the first hour. Not because you're trying to be brave, but because you're afraid the island might pull a trick, reel you back in with a soft flute tune or a waft of roasted figs. Even your boat, which seems content to glide across glassy waters without oar or sail, carries that honeyed sleep smell on its planks. It's like the island dusted you with nostalgia on the way out. A parting gift. Or maybe a warning. When you finally turn around, Nissos is a blur on the horizon, a hazy smear of gold, green, and lilac fog curling into the clouds. No shouting pirates. No shaking earth. Just stillness. You wonder if it will stay awake, or simply drift into a new kind of dream. Then you realize something. Your satchel, previously empty, feels heavier. You open it. Inside is the scroll. The one from the lyre chamber. Except this time it isn't sealed in wax. It's been rewritten. In your handwriting. You skim the parchment. The melody has changed. The final verse isn't a lullaby anymore. It's a refrain. Still haunting. Still beautiful. But open-ended. The kind of song that invites the next voice, not ends with it. You don't remember writing this. But you know it's yours. The wind shifts. A dolphin leaps in the distance. The boat rocks gently in approval. It's not taking you back where you came from. You know that instinctively. It's taking you forward. Historians still argue whether the sea voyage stories of ancient Greece were literal journeys or allegorical transitions between life phases, between innocence and knowledge, memory and loss. But as your boat glides under a sky finally willing to dim, you feel it in your bones. You've crossed into something else. You check your pockets. Grapes. Of course. A few golden raisins too. Probably sent by Dionysus for the road. You find a tiny scroll tucked into the lining of your sleeve. A note. Every party needs someone to remember it. Congrats. That's you now. D. Typical. The sky finally bleeds into night. Not sunset. Not frozen golden hour. Actual, starless night. You feel the difference like a fresh breeze in your lungs. For the first time in what feels like forever, you're tired. In a real, good way. You lie down on the deck. The boat rocks gently. The stars blink. And in your chest, you feel the last note again. Not humming. Not warning. Just waiting. Because the next verse? That's up to you. The boat coasts through the night like a quiet thought slipping between dreams. Water laps gently against the hull, and the stars stretch out above you, no longer part of a frozen sunset, but twinkling freely, almost playfully. You almost forgotten how a live night could feel. Not theatrical like the island's golden glow, but honest. Mysterious in a way that doesn't try too hard. You lose track of time. There's no sail, no rudder. The boat just knows where to go. The wine god's fingerprints are all over this journey. Of course, everything smells faintly of cinnamon and rebellion, but the direction? That's coming from something else. Eventually, you spot lights ahead. Not torches. Not bioluminescent vines. Actual lanterns. Docks. Civilization. You sit up, muscles stiff, hair smelling faintly of grapes and magic regret. The shore grows clearer, a small harbor town clinging to a crescent cove. Fishing boats bob beside stone piers. Wooden stairs rise up to tiled roofs and candlelit windows. The kind of place that doesn't show up on maps, but makes room for you anyway. As your boat bumps gently against the dock, a figure steps out to greet you. Not a satyr. Not a pirate. Just a person. New arrival, she asks, adjusting her shawl. You nod, climbing out of the boat. Your legs are wobbly, sea-worn, and still vibrating from whatever symphony of God's sleep you narrowly avoided. She squints at you. You don't look lost. That's rare. You shrug. I'm not sure what I am. She smiles. That's the perfect state to be in. You follow her up the dock toward a modest and with blue shutters and ivy growing in polite moderation up the walls. A sign hangs above the door, the Echo House. The name makes something flicker in your ribs. Been getting more travelers lately, she says. Folks from across the sea. All of them say the same thing, they're hearing music again. From islands that were supposed to be quiet. You pause. They remember? She looks back at you, eyes sharp. They do now. Inside the inn, the warmth is real. Fire in the hearth. Bread on the table. A cat asleep on a chair. You suddenly realize how long it's been since you were somewhere that didn't shimmer or hum or whisper your name in fig leaf riddles. She shows you to your room. You drop your satchel by the bed and sit. The mattress doesn't sigh or sing. It just creaks. You pull out the scroll. Still there. Still in your hand. The verse you never wrote, written by you. Your fingers trace the ink. Let the next voice join. Let the story continue. Let memory dance, not bind. It's not a command. It's an invitation. You lie back, staring at the wooden beams above. A spider builds quietly in the corner. No enchantments here. Just time and dust and honest rest. And yet, your mind won't sleep. Because the story isn't done. Somewhere out there, pirates are waking up in a world they don't recognize. Dionysus is probably explaining taxes. Thyra is probably dancing again, but slower now, more grounded. And the island? Nissos? You don't think it's gone. Just changed. Maybe it'll become a place people whisper about again. Maybe it'll vanish entirely, waiting for the next empty-souled wanderer. Or maybe, it'll become a different kind of dream. One that asks permission. Historians still argue about the power of songs, whether they recorded history or shaped it. But you're starting to think music doesn't just mark time. It moves it. You drift into sleep. Not enchanted, not cursed. Just tired. And before the darkness takes you completely, a final thought bubbles up. You never asked how long you were there. Days? Years? Centuries paused in a wine-drenched melody? You'll never know. But when you wake, you'll have a scroll, a song, and the memory of a god with ivy in his hair who asked you to rewrite a story he was too afraid to end. That's more than most mortals ever get. You wake with the sun in your eyes. Not a spotlight sun. Not a wine-stained theatrical trick. Just the honest, yellow kind that nudges your eyelids until you groan and turn over. The kind that says, get up. You're still real. The cat is gone. The scroll is still there. And beside it, someone's left a basket of bread and olives. A small note is tucked inside, for the one who helped the song end differently. Tea. You blink. You smile. You eat. Later, in the small harbor town square, you overhear things. A man talking to the innkeeper about a friend who wandered back from a long absence with wild eyes and a flute he didn't know how to play. A fisherman who says he sailed too close to a strange fog bank and heard someone whispering lead the next song in his dreams. A child who found a grapevine growing in a shoe print. The island didn't vanish. It's been dispersed. The music is everywhere now. You sit on a bench with your scroll, now smudged with bread oil and salt air, and watch life unfold. No lines creeping across stone. No pirates napping midair. Just people. But something about them feels brighter. Like the rhythm of Nissos, the enchanted loop of revelry and sleep has become something slower, subtler. Memory without entrapment. You walk past a temple on your way out of town. Not Dionysian. Something older. The priest there blesses travelers with a soft chant and a palm full of rosemary. When he sees your scroll, he goes very still. You've walked in myth, he says. You shrug. I tripped, really. He smiles. Same difference. He blesses you again, this time in silence. And when you leave the town, you don't take a boat. You walk. Because now the path lets you. The terrain unfolds naturally, winding hills, sleepy valleys, groves that smell like memory. Nothing blinks. Nothing hums. But here and there, in the breeze or bird call or lilt of the villager's voice, you catch a note. A flavor of that final verse. Still echoing. Historians will argue, of course. They'll say there never was a Dionysian island. That pirates don't sleep for decades. That vines don't hum lullabies or that corks don't hold God music. And that's fine. Let them write papers. You carry the truth in your ribcage. You make your way toward the next village. Somewhere inland. People there might need a story. Or a song. Maybe they've forgotten what it feels like to listen. Maybe they're just on the edge of their own strange enchantment. You can help them. Because you remember. You reach into your satchel. Pull out the scroll. But it's no longer just a scroll. It's become a book. Blank pages at the back, waiting to be filled. And at the top of the newest one. Chapter 2, The Island That Stayed Awake. The path turns gently downhill, and you follow, the smell of thyme and wood smoke guiding you forward. Your steps fall in rhythm. The sun warms your shoulders. Somewhere in the trees, someone is humming. And you realize, you're not the same person who arrived on that island. You've been rewritten too. It doesn't take long before word begins to travel. Not by boat or raven or screaming oracle, though those would have been more dramatic, but in the way all-powerful stories move, as whispers between strangers, as odd dreams that stick in the morning, as old songs suddenly remembered by people who never learned them. You stop in a village with no name, just a crooked signpost covered in moss and a well-worn square where the only statue is of a fish holding a lantern. No one remembers why. An old woman stirs soup in the center of the square. She hums a tune you recognize, Thyra's refrain, slightly off-key but unmistakable. You sit nearby, not saying a word. After a few bars, she pauses, turns to you. You've been there. You nod. Was it as wild as they say? You tilt your head. Wilder. But softer, too. She smiles, then ladles soup into a cracked bowl and hands it to you. No one talks about the soft parts, she says. But they're the ones that last. You stay for a night. Maybe two. People bring you things. Bits of old songs, stories with no endings, dreams about God with grape-stained fingers and eyes like mischief. You don't tell them everything. Just enough. They need to imagine the rest. Historians might scoff, but what matters isn't whether the facts line up. It's whether the story lands. And your story, your part in the song, has started to land. On the third morning, a boy hands you a flute. Roughly carved, uneven tone, but earnest. Can you teach me the song? He asks. You take it, test a note. It sounds like wind caught in a bottle. You nod. Over time, you start collecting things. A rhythm from a wandering drummer in a mountain town. A melody overheard from a sailor in a tavern. A lyric scratched on the side of a chicken coop. All fragments, scattered echoes from the island. But you see the pattern. You're no longer following the song. You're weaving it. Dionysus, in one of his stranger epiphanies, once said that songs are just memories with good manners. That they show up dressed in rhyme to keep from falling apart. You're starting to believe him. Sometimes, at night, you think about Nissos. You wonder if the pirates found jobs. If the olive trees have stopped whispering. If Thyra still dances. If Dionysus ever fixed his robe. Probably not. But most of all, you wonder if the island misses you. Then you remember, it's not just one place anymore. It's everywhere the music lives. One day, you climb a hill at the edge of a city. Not a mythic place. Just a city. Brick buildings. Rooftops. Noise. But you reach the top just as the sun drops below the skyline and the sky turns the exact same color as Dionysus's wine. And you play. Just a few notes. You don't need an audience. But people stop. A child sits on the curb, jaw open. A woman leans out her window, eyes soft. A man closes his market stall without rushing. No one speaks. And in the pause between verses, a dog howls 3 notes in perfect harmony. You keep playing. Because now you know, this isn't a solo. This is a relay. And the next part isn't yours to write. It's someone else's. You begin to notice them, people like you. Not many. Not obvious. But they're there. They hum half-familiar refrains in marketplaces, sketch spirals inside the corners of their notebooks, or wear pendants shaped like thistle goblets. You catch one carving a tiny cork into the handle of a walking stick. Another one offers you a cup of something that isn't wine, but tastes like memory anyway. They don't call themselves anything. No cult. No order. No matching tattoos. Just people who heard the music and didn't fall asleep. You come to think of them as echoes. One of them, a lean young man with ivy tucked behind one ear, meets you on a ferry crossing a wind-bitten strait. He's reading a scroll that looks suspiciously like yours. When you sit beside him, he closes it and just says, "She's dancing again." You nod. He smiles. He's traveling too. Said something about rebranding. You both laugh. The boat rocks. A gull screams overhead like it just realized it's late for a wedding. You part ways without exchanging names. That's how it is with echoes. Everyone knows the song, but no one tries to claim it. That was the problem the first time. Too many gods trying to hold the tune in their fists. Now, the music moves through us. Sometimes it shows up in strange places. You hear a melody drift through a storm in the middle of a dry desert. You find a boat made of living vines pulled ashore beside a city that hasn't seen rain in a decade. A mural painted under a bridge tells the story of a party that never ended, and ended everything. The artist? A child who swears she dreamed it. There's no center anymore. No source. The island has dissolved into the rhythm of waking people. Historians, gods love them, are baffled. They keep trying to track a trend in these sightings. But the moment they map a pattern, it shifts. That's how you know it's alive. You don't carry the scroll much now. You've memorized it. More than that, it's in you. The cadence of your steps, the way your breath slows when you hear the wind move through olive branches, the way your fingers twitch when you hear a flute in the distance. It's all rhythm. And you understand something now, something you couldn't have known before. The spell wasn't broken. It was completed. There was never a curse, only a song that needed someone to choose a different final note. Thyra chose to seal it. You chose to sing it through. And now, others are adding their parts, more voices, more verses, more dance. One evening, in a small coastal town with salt on its windows and thyme growing between the cobblestones, a girl tugs at your sleeve. She's no older than 7. Her hair smells like lemons and trouble. "Can I ask you something?" she says. You nod. Is it true there was a party so big, it put people to sleep forever? You hesitate. Then smile. Not forever. She squints. But they woke up? They did. Were they mad? You think of the pirates. The confusion. The slow laughter. The tears. The shoes thrown at Dionysus. A little, you say. But mostly they were grateful. She nods solemnly. That's how I feel after nap time. You hand her the flute you've been carrying. Not the first flute. One of many. They seem to find you now, like seashells washing up with purpose. Play something, you say. I don't know how. Good, you say. That's the best place to start. She plays a wobbly, hilarious note that makes the window cat dive under a cushion. But it's a start. That night, the town doesn't quite sleep. Not fully. People lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, hearing a tune that isn't there. Or maybe it is. And you, sitting in the square beside the statue of a fish holding a spoon, someone had replaced the lantern, Hum the final verse again. Not to contain, not to bind, but to invite. You reach a crossroads. Not metaphorically, an actual fork in the road. One path leads back toward the coast, where sea winds tug at cloaks and gulls heckle the docks. The other winds into the interior, forest shadowed, overgrown, thick with the sound of insects and secrets. You pause. The scroll hums faintly in your satchel, like it already knows which way you'll go. You step into the trees. The path is uneven, built by forgotten feet. Roots cross like sleeping arms. But your legs move confidently, tuned to an ancient rhythm. You pass an abandoned vineyard, overrun with wild fennel and foxes. The grapevines here are old but defiant, still trying to grow despite having no hands to train them. One of them waves slightly as you pass. You wave back. Eventually, you reach a clearing. And in the clearing, half buried in moss and time, is a theater. Ruined. Silent. Carved into the side of a hill like it always meant to be forgotten. You walk up the stone steps, brushing away ivy, until you reach what used to be the stage. There's a cracked mask lying on the ground. You pick it up. Comic on one side. Tragic on the other. Classic Dionysus. You set it on a ledge, careful not to disturb the rhythm of decay. Then you stand center stage and hum a note. One note. The trees respond. Birds hush. Leaves stutter. A low breeze slips through the colonnades, like the breath of an audience waiting for a first line. And you say, "She woke them with a song." Your voice isn't magical. It doesn't sparkle or echo. But the words settle into the dirt like seeds. They belong here. You speak more, telling the story, not as you lived it, but as you remember it. Shaped, shared, spun into something portable. The stage doesn't collapse. In fact, it seems to listen. You finish the tale, sit on the edge of the platform, and let the silence fall. Not heavy, not eerie, just full. Later, a pair of travelers pass through. You greet them. They sit and listen. One hums along. The other sketches the theater in a notebook. When they leave, they promise to tell the story again. Maybe change a few details. You smile. That's how it's supposed to work. Dionysus once told you that the truth was like wine. It never stayed exactly the same from barrel to barrel. Different flavors. Same core. You stay in the theater a few days. Sleep under the stars, dream normal dreams. No songs. No vines. No gods. Just the feeling of having done something that mattered. Quietly. Without fanfare. One morning, you wake to laughter. Soft. Familiar. Thyra stands in the amphitheater's upper row, arms crossed. "Not bad," she says. You stand, startled. "How did you?" "Don't worry," she says. "I'm not here to haunt you. Just wanted to see if you could tell it without falling into verse." You laugh. "I was close." She jumps down the steps, impossibly light, and takes a seat beside you. "Do you think they'll keep telling it?" you ask. She shrugs. "If the story's worth it, yeah. And if it changes, all good songs evolve." You watch the morning light stretch across the stage. For a moment, you imagine Dionysus himself stepping out with a thyrsus and a bottle, offering commentary and questionable choreography. Thyra sees your expression. He's still out there. Heard he started a wine club in the mountains. They say his grapes only grow when sung to. You nod. That tracks. She rises. "Well, you've done it." "Done what?" "Turned a curse into a chorus," she says. "That's rare." She disappears into the trees without fanfare. No vines. No wind. Just silence again. But a new kind. The silence after the show. When the lights go up and the audience carries the story home. You gather your things, leave the mask where you found it, and step back onto the road. You don't know where it goes. That's fine. You've learned to listen. Because now the world is full of songs again. And every footstep is a verse. There's a moment, somewhere between roads and ruins, where you realize you've stopped waiting for the next sign. You're no longer scanning tree branches for satyrs or listening for the wine hum of enchanted soil. The world has resumed its normal rhythm, but you're not quite normal anymore. You walk with a memory folded into your ribs. The kind of memory that doesn't ask to be spoken. Just played. You pass through towns where no one knows you, and it doesn't bother you. You still leave something behind, a whispered story, a half-song hummed under your breath, a look exchanged with a child who thinks the clouds are whispering her name. They might be. One evening, in a village shaped like a spiral, you're invited to dinner. Long wooden tables. Candles floating in bowls. Bread passed from hand to hand. Wine that doesn't sing, but does sparkle just a little when poured. You're about to decline dessert when someone taps their glass and stands. A man, maybe 60, with laugh lines and a nose like a noble pirate. He says, "Before we eat, a story." And he begins. Once, on an island where the sun forgot how to set, a god threw a party so wild it outlasted itself. You freeze. Everyone listens, smiles. No one questions. They know. Maybe not all the details. Maybe not your face. But the story? It's landed. He finishes. Raises a glass. To endings that wake us up. You raise yours too. Later that night, someone asks if you've ever heard that tale before. You smile. I've heard it some. That night, you dream, not of the island, not of the cork, not of Dionysus or Thyra, but of notes, drifting upward. Slow. Luminous. Rising from someone else's breath, someone else's verse. The song is still going. But it doesn't need you anymore. That's the gift of a true story. It leaves. And it grows.